What's going on, guys? Hey, welcome to Raefe Jenkins podcast, man. We are here to help entrepreneurs start their business, either grow their business. Maybe you're at the point of like selling their business. I'm here with my buddy Joe Thomas. He is a very likable guy. Someone that I've talked to once, and I'm just naturally drawn to the topic, probably because we're in the same industry. And I'll be excited to really just talk with him and us share information on how to bring value to your business. Joe, how you doing, bud?
Oh, doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Good, man. Hey, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we can kind of go from there.
Okay, my name's Joe Thomas. I'm a startup in the startup business, and it's kind of an interesting story. I've actually about 10 years ago, I was a heroin addict and had went homeless. And through the grace of God and the right people around me, I've got to the place of actually not just working for companies, but starting a company and about to release a new product line that I think will help a lot of people. So it's been an interesting journey.
Wow, heroin addict. So if you don't mind me asking, so your journey of becoming sober, and then all of a sudden, going from, an addict to sober for entrepreneur. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? Because there's a high chance there's a lot of people that are struggling with addictions, and it would be actually good to hear your story on how they could have a little bit more hope in the particular situation they may be in right now.
Um, well, I mean, here's something I learned. Like, number one, I didn't surround myself with people that were always down to me, say that I'm always going to relapse, that I'm always going to struggle with this thing all my life. I learned a way to actually control it. And what I'll say is things that happen in your life, like addiction, or different like ADD and things like that, you would think are obstacles against you, but you can actually use those things for your benefit. So like addiction, what happens in addiction is you have this drug and it affects your brain. It releases dopamine when you get it, and you're constantly seeking the next drugs, the next fix. What happens is when you get sober, the greatest part about it is you can actually focus all that attention on something like business and running a business. So now I actually get to see when there's problems in the industry. I get so addicted to the problem that I actually find solutions that don't even exist yet. So I get to see things differently than other people. So understand if you deal with, different things that you think may hold you back from starting, running a business, or becoming successful, or making it out of a struggle that you're currently in, it's definitely doable. I think that we were all designed specifically for our purpose. And a lot of us have a purpose to start a business, to run a business, to do something different in our life. And we look at the obstacles from our past and say that it affects who we are for the future. And let me tell you, it actually does affect who you are for the future, but it can be for the grace of God. It can be something great. Because I think that we are all designed in a way to accomplish things that only we can accomplish. So I get to look at problems and focus in on them and spend 20 hours a day trying to solve a problem. And I get to come up with a great solution for it. And now my addiction is creating solutions to things that other people haven't came up with that actually change humanity and make things better for everyone.
That is awesome. That's awesome, man. So my background is sports. My dad was a pro major college football coach, and I went down the path of, interning and then being contracted out and training NFL athletes. And when I got out of sports, I did it as a family move. And the first place I went to was the car business. And it was so funny because when you were talking about this, it brought me back to like memories at the car business where a lot of these uh, people trying to get sober, addicts, would go from like addictions to sales, because it was almost like their addiction was like, hey, they need something more of life. They need like a thrill, and they knew it was a bad choice. So they went into the car business, and it's the exact same type of feeling, but different. You still get that thrill of closing a deal. And then for me as an entrepreneur, I know exactly what you're talking about. I've never did drugs. I've never been an addict, but like I've medicated emotionally differently, and the same like feeling that hey, I need to do this to feel alive. That's how I feel as an entrepreneur. So I appreciate you like sharing that. You just recently started a business, from my understanding, called Interactive. Tell us a little bit about that, and what you guys plan on doing and what you're hoping to accomplish.
So interactive is kind of a cool concept. So we're first going after the home service industry, but our platform will actually extend amongst all B2C industries, and eventually we'll move into the B2B world as well. So what we actually do is we're creating an interactive experience with your business and a consumer. What I mean by that is we're using a form to actually fill out information about maybe what your needs are, what you're looking for, types of jobs you want done. That system will automatically connect to you in real time. It'll send you a text and an email, and we'll get with a business development representative, a company representative, and we'll hit them with the same thing. And it's as easy to use as if you know how to click a text message and click a link. That's all you need to know to use it. So wanted to create something so innovative, but so easy to use that no one would have a technology issues in between that would cause problems. But what we're really doing with the system is, by creating it this way and creating like assessments and scoring and pathways, we're creating a system that will actually be able to interact with you better, meaning that we will be improving conversational AI through our system. And we're going to do it through multiple platforms: text message, email, websites, social ads, and even phone calls. So you'll actually be able to operate it through all different types of mediums to get to automate a part of your business. Meaning it's going to take some of the hours that you spend doing certain jobs and tasks and make it actually operate on its own. Especially now in the era that we live, where getting people to work a job is not the easiest thing to do. Hiring people, not the easiest thing. So having areas that you can automate things and reach out to people quickly and give them what they need quicker. What consumer doesn't want something done quickly? If my roof is leaking, I want somebody there as fast as possible. If I want a product on Amazon, I want to have a conversation and find the right product for me and get it in real time. That's the type of society we live in. So we're trying to advance that, make it easier, but taking the human element out of it to do so.
Yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong. Based on what you're saying, is it's not necessarily that you're completely taking the human element out. You're just speeding up the sales cycle, because if they need, let's say, like it's you're in the industry of construction, I'm in the industry of construction, so we're kind of both familiar with that space. But let's say my roof is leaking. I get on a particular website and I just put in the basic information, and it kind of just sped up the sales cycle, where we're past the point of meet and greet, we're past the point of prospecting or qualifying. You almost cut the sales cycle in half. Would you say that's true? Where, hey, I have a
Yeah,
need, and like whenever I talk to an actual human, they already know what I need. I've already qualified myself that I need a new roof because it's leaking. So would you agree
right.
that you just automatically, I'm sorry, you automated the sales cycle to be sped up quicker?
Yeah. So instead of like a person that would have to watch a computer all day to see what forms come in and try to respond and look at the forms, we're speeding up that whole process. Where if you wanted it in real time, it would take at least one extra person in your business. And we're taking that element out and making that stuff speed up by being able to respond within 1 minute and changing the whole element of it. But,
So they go on a website, they go on a text message, they go on an email, they go on some sort of software, and then it instantly goes to the business that you're partnering with, and then their only responsibility is to collect the data that the customer has put in and immediately reach out to them. Correct?
correct. Yeah.
Dude, that
And
is
it can be done
awesome.
on flyers, and so it can even be done on like commercials and flyers through QR code. So
Yeah.
you send out flyers to people and they can respond to you. You could write letters and have the QR code to them, because that's a new thing that's happening in the industry as well. And so now they can reach out through online or offline to get directly in contact with you.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's super valuable for like entrepreneurs, especially like if you're starting up, you're the only person. Man, you don't have the time. as an entrepreneur to launch your business, to work out all the kinks, and then make all these cold calls and and try to get past all these gatekeepers and qualify all these customers that may or may not want your business. So automating the sales cycle would be huge. Right now you're doing that for construction, but talk a little bit about the vision for the future. You said you wanted to do B2B. Is it just going to stay in construction, or are you wanting to branch out to other industries, or what's the plan for your company?
No, it's going to branch out. It'll definitely branch out into other industries, like insurance. It will be one that'll branch out to. We've already tested our hand in like coaches. And we've actually got some really great statistics from coaches, helping them get 20 more meetings, close 4 more deals a month, and increase price by 4x. And that was our beta product. That was before we even got all these messaging features. It was just a survey that led down different pathways. So it can actually work within a lot of different places. The real vision for it will be things where meta happens and stuff, and people are actually operating in the virtual world. You'll actually be able to like order food and things, which is part of where I think Facebook's plan's going, where you can actually order food. It looks like you're in a McDonald's, and you can order the McDonald's and have a conversation with someone there. But our system could actually be that person you're having a conversation with. And so that's like actually, that's a 7 to 10 year future of our product, because that's kind of where technology is headed.
So like artificial intelligence type of conversation.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's the right word, if artificial intelligence, because you're not talking to a robot, but it's just automated where it's kind of like filtering you into a certain category and you speed up the sales cycle. If you can't tell, I'm a salesman. I love sales. That's where my mind goes, so.
Yeah, it will be conversational AI. So it'll actually take the element of that human completely out in about 7 to 10 years.
Dude, that is awesome.
It will actually work with your POS systems. It'll work with, your Amazon type systems. And because we have notifications that are being sent and then rules to send notifications, it doesn't just operate as the conversation. It can actually do the action on the back end.
Right. Yeah, I mean, honestly, my initial thoughts of this, I think it will make especially a startup entrepreneur's life 10 times easier. I don't know if you're familiar with a guy named Russell Brunson, but I heard a quote from this guy, and he said that like the internet is the hardest working employee that charges the least amount of money.
Correct.
And it's so true, because like everything is turning digital. Like 10 years ago, like it was all like people based, and every business is run on people, but it's becoming more digital, where the efficiency of the job is becoming more effective because you're removing all the unnecessary time and energy. I go into Walmart right now, like it's almost like everything's self checkout and there's only one person supervising, as opposed to the 5 or 10 people initially checking me out.
Yeah, and imagine that if you could have a conversation with it, and then it could actually help you when you're waiting for that person that's maybe with 3 other customers. What if the system could actually ask you questions and do what you need on its own? It would save so much time and energy, because they're trying to put as little people as possible to help you.
Yeah.
And when there's, right now, ours has 12. So it has 1 person to 12. Like the other day, couldn't get something, the machine messed up, and we needed something removed. We had to wait for 30 minutes to get the person to us because another system was having a problem.
Exactly.
So, doesn't even make sense.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it would be easier, but maybe like for like baby boomer generation, anyone that's wanting to start a business during that age, they may have a hard time adapting and embracing this topic just because of technology, or at least the people that I know. I can't say a blanket statement for everyone in that generation, but what kind of like words of encouragement would you say about like automation in general? Because I would agree with you. Like my millennial generation, like we're 100% behind like using technology, and working smarter, not harder is like kind of my slogan. So what would you say to someone that like, hey, they feel like they have this I can do everything mentality, and they're not taking advantage of just simple systems in place to use technology, use automation, etc.?
Um, what's first you kind of rethink your thought process because really it's looking at the numbers around how much you can do a day. Like what maybe you can make. We'll say you can make 300 calls a day, but what if you could set your emails and you could be sending 4,000 emails a day? What if those emails that kicked out to the open rate could then kick into a system that would send a text message? And what if that text message could then lead to your website and they do a sale? And instead of you spending 80 hours a week, you're now spending 20 hours a week and you've made 4 times what you made last year. That's what automation can do for you. It does take, you really have to figure out your strategy. You have to really numbers. When you create automation, you've got to know what your open rate is. How many answers do you get to text messages? How well is your website going over? But once you get that all tested out, you just kind of sit back and let your system float and make you money. And then you go start another business and do the same thing.
That's
And
awesome.
before you know it, you're a multi-millionaire.
So other than like you and the automation, do you think it's practical for entrepreneurs to come up with a simple idea and then turn around, give it to, technology to just self-manage, or like how hands-on do you have to be after all these systems are put in place?
So the very beginning, you're very hands-on because you're just looking at numbers and tweaking on the basis of numbers that you have. Um, so it goes from like 100% hands-on, every day monitoring the numbers. About 6 weeks later, you're about 5 to 10% hands-on. So it's really demanding at the beginning, but then 6 weeks from now, you get everything honed in, and then your system just runs on autopilot.
Dude, that's
And
awesome.
that's great. And here's another great tip for you if you're going to do some of these things and set up your emails. Maybe you don't know how to do the email sequences. You don't know how to set up the text messages, things like that. You can look at places like Fiverr or Upwork, and you can get people to write email sequences for $140. You can take that sequence that's maybe okay, and then you can invest $100 into a software like PepperType, and it's an AI content generator, and it will make it perfect for you. You'll bring it out, put it in an email sequence, and instead of you paying somebody $1,000 an email, which you would pay here in the U.S., you can now pay someone $120 and create the same type of system, if not better, than the guy that charges $1,000. So there's a lot of areas that you can use to save money on creating these different things as well with people that do it for a living.
Wow. So let's say, okay, so like I like this idea. I have a business too. Okay, so like I have a full-time job, but like my full-time job like contracts me out and I'm really good at sales. So like I spend, you know, 3 4 hours a day doing it. And then like at night and on the weekends I have my own little business, right? So I'm very intrigued about this topic. I'm sure a lot of other people listening are too, but like what would be like the next steps of not necessarily learning more, but like how hard would it be like setting up? Like, hey, let's say I wanted to like partner with you on this, apply this to my business model, to my vision. How hard is it to actually transition from me doing everything myself to, hey, tomorrow we're going to put automation in place?
What it kind of depends on, what type of automation you're putting in place. Like technology like ours, everyone else you've got to pay a person to set up your emails, manage your emails, set up Twilio for like text messaging, and you've got to put all these things in place. With our company, what we're doing differently is you pay for it, we do it all, and you just place it. You put it in a link on your website, put it on links on your when you're running ads. It already generates a QR code, so all you got to do is right click and save the QR code. You can put it on any of your other documentations that's more physical or commercials. And for you, it's nothing, no extra work at all. We
Huh.
do all the heavy lifting, and you just sit back making money.
Wow. That's pretty rad. So let's talk about statistics. Like I'm not very like a statistical person. I know it's super important, but I'm very relational. I'm very like friendly. I'm like I don't know if you're familiar with strength finders, but I'm a woo. Like I'm just gonna be friends with everyone. Like my downfall though is like details, small details, statistics, and I know it's important, but like why is it important? And maybe for the people that aren't realizing that, like, hey, they're not really efficiently using statistics, like what are some basic advice on how they can use statistics in their favor of starting a business?
Well, statistics are impertinent on how well your business does. So, from the point of you building a product, like when we were looking at ours on the front end, we looked at 18% of calls get missed on Monday through Friday with home service businesses. But the big area is 48% gets missed on the weekend, and 58% of business on the weekends lost by home service companies.
Hmm.
Understanding facts like that for the front side of your business is great. Now, running your business, they have this thing called key performance indicators. So you come up with a goal for an email campaign. I want a 22% open rate. Well, you monitor that and make sure you're getting 22%, and maybe you change your goal to 30%. So you know once you hit the 30%, I've got everything optimized. Now it's time to move to the next part. Maybe you're going to look at your text messages. Because on average, a text message has a 98.9% open rate. So knowing that type of thing when you're moving it into your system makes a lot of sense. But then looking at that, I got a 30% reply. I want to get a 40% reply. So you keep changing your messaging until you get a 40% reply. And then next, you start looking at your website. How well is it going? So you see that you've got 1,000 people go on your website. I want 10% of them to convert. So looking at those statistics and seeing that now I've got 1,000 people in my website and 100 people converted. Knowing each part of those statistics and setting goals for each one and getting to that goal is what gets you to a full automated system that makes continuous money over and over again. What we're trying to do differently is we're trying to help you do those things. We're By the end of March, we will actually start doing a lot of the statistics on the thing as well. So you'll put schedule a meeting, you'll put close the deal. So now our system, all you got to do is click one button from the text that we sent you, and it records it and gives you all your statistics for you. Removing all that time I've got to spend on each process and making it all into one.
That's awesome, man. So do you do this full time? Like, I know you're in the process of launching and everything. Like, is this your full time job, or what else you got going on?
Yeah, this is my full time job.
Man, that is
I
awesome.
do some consulting here and there with people. I help entrepreneurs, sometimes do webinars and things to help entrepreneurs. And my youth pastor, but my main job is this company and creating this technology.
Youth pastor, entrepreneur, man, that's awesome. So, like, tell me about your journey of like going from, you know, were you always an entrepreneur, or like, did you work for someone else full time and this was like a night and weekend deal, or like, where was the transition of how you did this full time?
Well, I tried my hand at entrepreneurship. I had a few things that made some money, and then I lost a bunch of money in the process. Generally, always worked for someone in the meanwhile. Um, then I got sober and I started a thing to raise money for nonprofits to help people get into treatment that couldn't afford it. And by running that organization on the side, which we raised hundreds of thousands of dollars and got thousands of people into treatment, I learned how to actually be an entrepreneur, and I started seeing pitfalls within companies and different systems. And I found ways to overcome those problems by really analyzing processes and stuff. One day I had a dream, and it kind of showed me a little bit of a product. And the next day I got up and started working towards creating the product, and basically invested everything I had into it. And
Come on, man.
now it's been 3 years to get to this
Awesome.
place.
So, like a dream,
But
like an ambition, or like a dream, like you're asleep at night,
sleep at night dream.
dude. So, like, God gave you an idea, and we woke up and you just went all in on this idea, right?
Yep.
Dude, that is
Yep.
awesome, bro. That is awesome. Another a key point in that story is like, you had a very rough history, and in the process of you getting sober, you found a solution to also help other people, and you made a living off of, like, helping people get to where you are now, so I mean, I think that's huge. Any entrepreneur, I was told, you need three things to start a business. You need something that makes money, something that you're really good at, and something you're passionate about. And for every single time that I've started a business, other than a handful of times, it was always the money. It was always the good idea, like I'm really good at it, but it's like I wasn't passionate. So like you made a killer living initially on helping people with this organization, and then you learned a lot of entrepreneur, uh, you know, strategies along the way that helped you even advance even further. That's pretty awesome. So for like someone that's like starting out, like, hey, I want to be an entrepreneur, or they're in the beginning stages of like trying to get their idea up and going, what type of advice would you give them?
First, make sure what problem you're solving, and then make sure it's a real problem and create a solution. And I say that because it sounds like common sense, but I'll tell you how I started my journey. Was I saw a thing that I thought was a problem, and it was a problem. Uh, we actually started a whole different concept at the beginning of this, and then it kind of molded into something else. But the first process was about helping people get into treatment. What I didn't look at was this the problem for the guy that will pay the bill for the product? And we spent 2 years trying to push a product that we put thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in, that we couldn't make enough money to actually help anyone. So when you're doing it, make sure your problem is worth solving and there's a buyer for that problem, and create a very unique solution for that problem.
Yeah, that's good.
And you're going to have pitfalls. You're going to fail. There's going to be failure after failure after failure. But eventually, you're going to hit what you were actually meaning to invent the entire time.
Yeah.
So keep going, keep pressing forward.
And that's why it's so important to be passionate about what you're doing. I mean, it seemed like every single time I've started a business based on a good idea and that I wasn't passionate about, the moment a problem came up or an issue came up, I was just like, whatever. Like, I'm not willing to go down with this sinking ship. You know what I'm saying? But the stuff that I was always passionate about, like, like I'm going to go down like the Titanic. Like, I'm the captain of the ship. If it's going to go down, I'm going to go down with it, because like it's the heart and soul of what I'm doing. So maybe not for like an analytical guy, automatic statistic person like you, like probably you. It's just, would you agree it's not necessarily much purpose? It's more of the numbers. Or would you also think for an analytical person, like, purpose and passion is extremely, like it's
Purpose
extremely
and passion
important.
is everything.
Okay.
When an
I've actually
investor
met.
looks at a company to invest in, they look at the team and they look at the passion for the team because they know you're going to have failures. But if you have passion, the failure doesn't mean anything because you're going to figure out a way around the failure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I didn't want to speak for you. I think, I just wanted to hear your opinion, because a lot of times I do hear a lot of people are like, hey, forget passion. Like, I just want to make money. But like all the like great companies, even like the analytical companies like Google or something like that, where it's a lot of like, programmers in there, like there's a purpose of why they're doing what they're doing. Like the tech world generally has a cause behind it. And right now people aren't buying products. They're buying a reason why they should buy it, because there's a cause behind it. Tom shoes or something like that. And initially that's why you got so good so fast, is you were helping that nonprofit, raise a tremendous amount of money, and learned how to be an entrepreneur along the way. So like passions is extremely important. And then going back to solving a problem, like I look everything from sales. And if you can create a product where people are running to you because you're solving a problem, like you have an incredible business, because 9 times out of 10, most salesmen are like, you're running after someone and you can't even get a meeting. But if you come up with a real problem for a group of people that you're trying to solve the problem for, and they're running to you, like then something like this actually makes sense in automation, where you're not trying to convince someone. You have systems in place for them to already, qualify themselves, and they're like fighting for you to help them. Like that's a real business. So are you
Definitely.
partners with
The
anyone?
other thing
Go ahead.
go ahead. I was just saying the last thing that I would really say is find out where you're strong and where you're, and bring in co-founders for your business that have strengths where you're weak.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you is, like, are you partnering with anyone, or are you contracting people out, or who's like helping you balance this?
I've got a co-founder with me that's total different personality trait than me. He's kind of the nicer guy. I'm kind of the upfront, in your face, come up with solutions guy. Matter of fact, he's a nicer guy that actually figures out more customer experience and things. We've got a CTO, Chief Technology Officer, that's got 30 years in technology, worked for some of the biggest companies in the world, and is part of three Series A funded tech companies right now as well. We've got someone from the banking industry that helped build a bank from 800 million to 8 billion. That's going to be running operations. We've got somebody from business development that's helped companies make $500 million a year. So you find all those elements of different pieces that you're not good at, and you just fill the gap with those people.
That's awesome. Yeah, my business partner per se is my wife. Like, she's the complete opposite. I'm going to talk to everyone in the room, and she's going to like hide in the corner all by herself, thinking and processing. Like, we're the complete different person, but like we truly balance each other out. Seriously. Like yesterday, she's grabbing me out because the business that I'm kind of launching and developing right now, it's like you're working a little bit harder than you need to be working, and putting systems in place, kind of like automation. After this podcast, I want to talk to you more about it because, like, you'd be actually crazy to not utilize technology and automation and statistics like you're talking about, especially during this day and age where 9 times out of 10, if someone needs something, they Google something. So anyway, long story short, man, this has been a very intriguing conversation. I want to close the conversation out with, any final remarks, any final statements you want to say, any suggestions or word of advice, or any additional thought before we end.
The only additional thought I always have is, if you're trying to start a business, you don't know how, you think that you're unqualified, you feel that your background is holding you, separating you, so you can't move forward with your business. I just want to encourage you and say, I believe you can. Just every area that you're missing, get a book, read about it, watch a podcast.
Absolutely.
Just learn. You can do it. I don't need a Harvard MBA to start a business. What I need is ambition to want to succeed with it, and willingness to do everything that I don't know, to learn everything I don't know. So eventually I'll know it and I can move forward with it.
Absolutely. 100%. 100%. Especially back since the common, conversation on this interview is technology and utilizing technology. Like 20 years ago, if you're starting a business, it's like intuition and networking, and now it's like all YouTube advice. There's tremendous amount of wealth and resources out there, and you just have to get on YouTube and search, how to start an LLC, how to have a business partner, how to start a business, and there's resources out there. Joe, thank you for your time, man. I really appreciate you.
You're very welcome.
So, and one more thing before we end, like, so how would someone reach out and connect with you if they wanted to learn more about your business, and what type of information can you give them to really get in contact with you?
Okay, so the website's not out yet. It will be out by the end of the week. It is interactive.io. And how you spell that is ENTER, like the button on your keyboard. And active is ACTIV.io. If you go there, you can see exactly what we're doing. You can click the links within it, and you'll actually get to experience the software as well.
Very cool. I love it, man. Joe, thank you for your time, bud.
You're very welcome.
Take care, buddy. Thanks.
All right, bye.